Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. Glad you're able to join me tonight. I'm going to be solo. Mrs. Steve is busy upstairs trying to get everything back in order from our trip. And as always, everyone respect family, mods, and each other. Tonight, we're going to be once again talking about Amber Crum case. And we have another one of the members that volunteered their time and went on the search in Dallas, Texas with us, trying to find answers and justice for um, Amber and for Larry. And so tonight we're going to have Christina. And with that being said, let me introduce you to her. Hello, Christina.
Hi.
Glad you're here with us tonight. Appreciate you coming.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Okay. Well, all of the people here, of course, have heard already from Chris and myself and your sister
Yep.
and about her background and her channel. And if you would introduce yourself.
Sure. I have a background in basically just researching. I spent a lot of money to be taught how to research. I have a master's of science in teaching, and I have a master's of library and information science with an emphasis in information technology. Um, I've also spent quite a bit of time coming to understand the digitization process and how to preserve and conserve specifically library files, but that kind of blends over into other areas. And my sister asked me along on this trip because, well, probably mostly because she she probably thought she could convince me to help her carry stuff around, but I'm definitely a lot weaker than she is. So I think it was mostly just safety in numbers. But I wound up helping digitize files, do a little do a little research, helping look people up.
Mhm.
And yeah, I that's about it. That's the brief summary.
It is. And now, of course, y'all traveled across several states to come here and to Texas to meet with us. And
Hmm.
and I know that you probably had a thoughts of what the adventure would be because Amber Crum is a 40-year-old case. For those joining us in the audience tonight that haven't heard of this case or will be watching it in the future, Amber Crum is a 2-year-old girl that in 1983 was living with her biological mother and the mother's boyfriend in Dallas, Texas. December the 26th of 1983, the boyfriend got up that morning and reportedly took Amber to a local store where she was abducted. That's the story that was told to the police originally. And they pointed the finger at the biological father, Larry Crum, who was in another state. And when the FBI went and questioned and approached and detained Larry, they found out, of course, that he did not have Amber. And they, at that point, refocused back on Dallas, Texas. And over these 40 years since that first moment Larry was made aware that his daughter was missing, he has fought and tried to find answers and find justice for Amber. And last year, he contacted uh, this channel and asked if I would help. and I absolutely uh, embraced it and tried to do everything I could on the research part of it. Found about a lot of information about it, and then decided that we needed to go due to some of the research and some of the investigations and some of the unanswered questions that we needed to go to Texas and do a search. And during that preparing to go to Texas, I was contacted by Christina's sister, who has some ERI technology, which is electrical resistivity imaging, and is a technology that, of course, is underused by law enforcement. And I hope to change that as far as what I have in the plans in the future when we utilize it to the best that we can on other searches, not only with this one, but others. And so once we got the team formed and everyone committed to coming, and it was several weeks and well, it turned into about almost 3 months before we got permission. And when I spoke to Christina's sister, Carolyn, she said that um, she had someone that she was bringing along that would be a great assistant. And I said, absolutely, the more help that we have, the better. And Christina came and absolutely um, uh, outperformed my greatest expectations of anything I could have imagined, for the fact that um, we were having a meeting. I think it was on day 1 or 2, Christina, when I was talking about that at one point of the investigations, I was going to need to make copies. And you looked at me and asked, did I have, what was it did I not have that you ordered?
A scanner,
Yes.
the very basic tool for making copies.
Well, I have a PI that was bringing, already had committed to bringing certain scanners and things for certain types of scanning. But Christina had the foresight to anticipate what I hadn't anticipated. And luckily, we did have a hand scanner, for the fact that otherwise we'd been tearing up some of the private investigators' notes,
Yeah,
because
you
some of
don't want
them
to
couldn't be.
return.
Yeah, yeah. Some of those couldn't have been scanned through the scanner.
No.
But when you showed up, and what was the differences of when you arrived, and we started talking about the case than what you had imagined it was going to be like?
Um, I mean, I guess I really didn't have a good idea of what I was getting myself into. Um, I knew we were going to Dallas, Texas, and I knew there was about a 5-acre property that my sister was going to be responsible for imaging with her equipment, including a crawl space. But as far as a team, as far as, I mean, because we really did all work together the entire week, and that I guess I went into it thinking that we kind of be out there by ourselves. Um, and that's not at all what happened.
But when you met Chris for the first time, had you ever seen Chris's show, The Mob Crew, before?
No.
Okay.
No.
Have you seen Have you seen it since?
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
have.
But he is an interesting fellow. Extremely bright, hardworking, and can't drive. By the way, he can't drive at all. You know, anyone that tries to run me down, and
Yeah.
but that's
Show it.
another story for those of you who haven't stayed up with what was happening. But anyway, uh, when you met Larry, was Larry? What was the difference, and what was your first impressions of Larry?
Uh, uh, when I met Larry for the first time, uh, I think that was the first. like, no offense to you and Chris, but probably after like the first 5 minutes of talking to Larry, I thought, oh, okay, stuff is getting done. Like, we are actually going to accomplish something because um, Larry is very determined, and he's on a mission, and he's very clear about that. And he kind of uh, filled me with the same sense of purpose that he has.
He is a very determined father. For
Yes.
someone that has not had a relationship with their child in 40 years, I it is absolutely amazing. And someone last night made a comment in chat about how great a father he would have been,
Yeah, that
and
was Carolyn.
and and it was actually, and absolutely that is correct, because he was and is. I mean, he hasn't given up the fight, and I've seen him emotional, and we all have, as he's on this roller coaster ride, because there was some moments of hard work, and moments of everyone being excited, even law enforcement. Because law enforcement, their hopes were up, and it's still that way even now that we've got back. What was a as we what was the high point of this trip for you?
I, I mean, it was a series of highs and lows. I mean, especially at the end of day 3, or that just kind of blended into day 4. You know, hope my hopes were sky high. I know you were trying to keep us grounded, but that wasn't. I'm always super optimistic. So in this case, I was already um, shooting for the moon, and then there was the letdown the following day, and then the day after that, eh, where we are now, where my hopes are sky high.
Well, I mean, there's still a lot of testing to do, and of course, we have uh, already went and saw one or two experts since I've arrived back with some of the materials and some of the artifacts, but and we've still got a lot of things that we have to process, and then the lab work comes, and who knows about how long would that be? And so we have a longer roller coaster ride ahead of us. Um, One of the things when you was and you probably of the people that are new to this case, um, you have a better understanding of the records because you were the sole keeper of the records for about 24 hours.
Hmm.
Uh, and of course, that was part of your interview. And I'm sure that
Yes.
got quite the interest from law enforcement at that time period.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about your interview.
Um. Well, they it started off very sweet. They were very concerned for me when they found out that my sister had driven me like across the country to meet some men that she had met on the internet, and it doesn't sound like the opening to a story with a happy ending. And then the story just kept getting, I don't want to say worse, but more complicated from there. They seemed concerned when they found out that I had like a lockbox full of confidential records that was in my possession, and and I was giving them names that I thought they'd recognize, but they didn't.
Oh yeah, and now the records, and as you was analyzing those and making copies of, and there's details in there, of course, that we
Yes.
can't release. But was there any? And of course, we can't specifically on some of them, but um, the track that we are following, I personally believe is the correct track. What are your
Yes.
thoughts?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, uh there's no doubt in my mind. And um I actually spent a probably too much time because I can get a little too wrapped up in research. Um I started looking into like the Texas court systems. How does this work? How is the legal system in Texas different? Because how this all played out seems very strange to me. Um, I feel like, from what I saw, that you have chosen the appropriate course of action, sir. Well done.
Thank you. But anyway, I mean, and there's still a lot of work to be done. Um,
Hmm.
we, uh, like I said, right now, um, I'm about as sick as a person could be on processing dirt. You know, I described to you the other day, it's like if you had a Play-Doh ball, 100-pound Play-Doh ball, and you're going through that dirt and you're looking for artifacts and you're having to go through that clay, which is very consistent, like a Play-Doh, and you're trying to find things in that hard, semi-hard material, and you're trying to find these artifacts, and so my little process is monotonous, and it just about drives me crazy. I can only do it 5 or 6 hours a day, and um, and then I have to take a break. But and but you got to meet another PI out there, Tanya.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of you know getting thrown into this and meeting you guys for the first time just days before I was interviewed by the police downtown. Um, I the details I was giving them about like who I had been working with those files, Tanya, probably wasn't like I only had a vague idea, and she turned out she and I, as soon as you left, actually, she and I, we really became a well-oiled machine. I mean, we we buckled down, we got to it. She had her automatic feeder on her scanner. We had our organized piles of documents, which uh, they were labeled one thing on the folder, and then when you opened them up, it turned out to be something else, like printouts of Reddit conversations for some reason. Um,
Well, part of that was is that at that point we moved you across the room, and I had to quit calling different names to you because you would answer to any name I yelled out because I
oh
couldn't
yeah.
remember your name at that time, and which is still we still go along those lines that we aggravate each other by different names, but but I'm glad that once I got out of y'all's way and y'all were able to look across at each other, y'all were able to speed up the process because there was a lot of records,
Yes. And
and
not
there was a
just
lot of stuff in there, and I've still got to go through there and organize and build timelines and build suspect lists, and if we get to that phase, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff. You know, I've probably got 3 or 4 more weeks of different things I have to do before I go back to Texas in the future, and but then I've got other cold cases I'm working on also. So I am so far behind.
well, I hope I mean, we given the excitement of what was being found at the house that day, Tanya and I were like, let's just get these things digitized. Otherwise, probably would have tagged and labeled things a little bit better for you. Uh for your future work, but hopefully what you have makes sense.
Oh, it
Um,
will. I mean, I went through and took all the personal notes because he had a lot of paperwork in there. It's just computer generated background noise.
yeah, like the Reddit printouts, and I think he even had some Wikipedia articles he had printed at one point, and I mean there was a lot going on in there. You know, when I say that they were records, I'm talking like all different types of media. Uh, there were cassette tapes in there. There were photographs. There were like carbon copy stapled receipts. There were notebooks of things. There was a pamphlet for like a home showing that we couldn't place. I mean, there was a lot going on in that box, and then at the at the end when we had to put it all back into the box, that was the hardest part of the digitization process with Tanya, because she made the copying and the scanning real easy, but then we're standing there and we have these packed folders and we're like, how did Steve get these all in the box?
Well, actually, I reorganized them even when y'all were done, and I put some more stuff back in there.
What?
Yes, I put more in.
No, that's not possible.
Well, well, now when they open it, they may be surprised.
It's just gonna all like
Yes,
jump out at them.
but anyway, let's see what we got over here in chat. I had someone gifted a membership, Brenda Birkenback. Absolutely appreciate you. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you. And um, Christine, if you'll see, I got a blue light behind me. That's
Okay.
Mrs. Steve's favorite thing to do. This when she's sitting here beside me in front of the bat phone that I have over here behind me. Um, she flips on and off the blue light anytime we have support from our in chat, and so that's what she enjoys doing more than anything. Uh, so I have to keep the battery charged up for that for her. Let's see what else we got over here. Let's see. Let me get up here. See what we got. True crime. Can you describe how dirt is processed? Let me tell you. Now, when we're talking about this type of dirt, it's not like you would think it's anything that is like sand or grit or this stuff is like it's Play-Doh is the closest consistency I can think of. Sticky red clay, and that's 90% of this. And you have to process this, whereas you can feel everything within that uh, small piece of soil that you work with at a time. And so you make little cookies. And I've probably made about 100,000 cookies in the last 4 or 5 days. And, because you're taking something the size of a golf ball and you're thinning it out to just over, about the thickness of 3 or 4 index cards so that you can feel every piece of bone and possibly other artifacts such as teeth that might be within that soil. And so you have to look at that and do that. And so that's what I've been doing on this. Now, there's other ways when you have certain things, but and I could totally um, bring in water, dilute all the soil away, but there's other processes that we may have to do with chemical analysis in the future, and I can't do that. So I have to suit up, glove up, and mask up so I can process all this material so that if there's other chemical lab work that can be done on it, it can still be done with some integrity and very minimizing any contamination of that. Whereas if I diluted it with water, which would be the easiest, and then just screen it out to whatever materials. But I had to make certain choices with this Play-Doh like material. So hopefully I should be done. I was supposed to be done today, but we had to meet one of the other professional consultants and have some analysis done on some other materials. And of course, now we got to get lab work done on that material. All right, let's see here. Let me get back in. Okay. I got a new member also, CJK. Thank you. We appreciate your support. Um, your memberships and all the support we get is what allows us to go on these trips and have impacts on these families. Because without you, um, the travel expenses, it's not cheap to travel. When you're living, and we lived out of a motel for what, 5, 6 days?
Yeah, like Sunday night through Saturday morning.
Yes. And, y'all were treated almost as good as prisoners. Y'all got to eat 2 meals a day. You had breakfast and you had supper. Um, but did anyone ever break for lunch?
You brought Tanya and me lunch that one day, and
Okay.
the homeowner, she brought homemade cookies out a couple of days.
Yeah. And of that, speak about the property owners for a few minutes, about your relationship and your interactions with them.
So just I wasn't sure what to expect out of these homeowners. And when we pulled in the first day, for me personally, I took it as a great sign that there were three dogs in the yard. And the next person I met was the uh, the wife, and she was fantastic. And then I met I believe I met her husband when he got home from work that day, and I thought these are really nice people, but maybe it's only because it's day one. And no, they just became even better as time went on. Like I cannot speak highly enough of the homeowners and their hospitality. Um, it, they treated us uh, so well. They went above and beyond.
And one of the things that about the family, of course, is that I didn't learn until what was it, day 4 or 5, that when I was speaking with the property owner, that he had been in contact with certain uh, people in his family, um, and they had expressed concern that for whatever reason, from their opinions, that uh, everyone was being paid. and when I explained to them that everyone had taken off from their life and no one was getting paid, everyone had either left their jobs behind or took and made this trip at no pay, and he at that moment, I could see a change in his of of his thoughts of us, and because he actually told me, he said, "I wish I had known that on day one." And I had always explained to him that everything was done by a foundation, and that our support and our crew that was coming out was volunteers. But it didn't hit him until that moment, and absolutely he was, you know, I couldn't ask for anyone to grant me more access to their property than he did,
Yeah.
and his wife, and very understanding. And even before that conversation, but once I had that conversation with it was even better. And so that worked out extremely well. And I couldn't have, and that was a major part that I'm pretty sure you didn't think that that was going to be part of your role while you were there, your
No,
interactions with the family.
no, not at all. I'm actually extremely introverted, and I don't think I would have ever been described as social
But no, you did
before this
a
trip.
great job on it, and like I said, everyone stepped up and they played a role for that whole period, and uh, because it was extremely. I can't say that um, it was harsh conditions, but it was emotional at times
Yeah.
because you couldn't sit there and talk to Larry and not see, you know, be affected by his energy and his high points and his low points,
Hmm.
um, because he was, there was a lot of that going on throughout this.
Yeah,
Let's see
absolutely.
what else we got over here in chat. Normally, Mrs. Steve handles all of this.
Oh
And so
no.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna miss about um, because I'm nowhere qualified to be running this Google machine. And the but we noticed that uh, I wanted to so bad, but I knew that if I touched Carolyn's computer, that it would absolutely lock up forever, and I would never hear the end of that. It's amazing how she is able to look at that screen when it's that screen of numbers,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like some type of tic tac toe Jeopardy game, a memory game of what these numbers mean. And she's, all I do is shake my head, yes. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that first night when she was processing and I was just exhausted. Like, I don't do well in Wisconsin heat and humidity, let alone Texas heat and humidity. So I was wiped out, and she's still up at her computer. She's processing the data she had collected that day. And at some point at like 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear her go, "Hey, you got to check this out. Come and see this data. Come and see this information from this line I got." And I'm like, I wouldn't know what I was looking at the best of times, let alone now, half asleep. I don't know how she does it.
Okay, now I've got a couple other people on our memberships. Katrina for 4 months, thank you. And Purdue are in 7 months, and she stated we were her heroes, and that's very nice of you. I'm not the heroes. These people that came and dedicated their time and traveled across the country, they're the ones that this mission that we're on and we're able to do. I could not have done without their help, and I'm indebted to them, and look forward to working with them a lot in the future. And then I see where someone, Kamala Nars, $10. Thank you, appreciate it. We appreciate your support because um, I have got to buy measuring tape uh, Carolyn. Um, and I think between last night's and tonight, I'm able to pay for that.
Excellent. She'll be looking forward to that.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Oh yeah, there was a comment of, and this is something that I don't know if we spoke about before. During my first interview with Larry, um, someone in chat asked him, did he have any other children? And he said, um, and it's one of the most heartbreaking um, statements that, as a man, I could never imagine having to live through it. And he said, no, he had never had any other children because he couldn't protect the first one. Why would he want more? And of course, when you see that, and Larry is a very strong man, you know, but he's still very emotional, and but he's a very strong man. But that is about every man out there recognizes that statement for what it is and gives it the value it deserves because it is a very strong statement. And it's in so many ways it's sad also, but you have to absolutely respect him um, for his commitment. Let's see here. What else we got down through here? You have to bear, like I said, Mrs. Steve handles this most times, and I carry this that this team is very fortunate to have Carolyn, and we are.
Mhm.
But I'm very fortunate to also have Carolyn's sister here, Christina, um, to have Larry, to have Chris, um, and have my supporters. Because without it, we wouldn't have been in Texas. I wish that I had enough money to do it myself. But okay, Sean has went to Delphi. I got to get with you, Sean, and talk to you about your trip to Delphi. That's another one of the cases I worked in the past or looked at. I didn't work for the families. I just did some coverage of it. Let's see here. People are telling me blue light. Um, Trying to get all my called up here. Well, you're going to be doing this too. If you're helping Christina, when you help Carolyn with her channel,
Mm-hmm.
this is what happens. You get these. You have to multitask. Here's a great question from Kamal. Mr. Steve, you like and trust the original PI they had on the case. Did you get information from him? Absolutely. Um, we got some critical information, got some critical recordings. We know far more about this case than we did, 10 days ago? Or let's see, when did we meet up out there? I don't know. It's been every day has just uh, turned into the next right now. Still so much going on, but yes,
I
we know a lot more about it than we ever knew before.
I can't imagine. I mean, Tanya has to know the most at this point because she's the one who sat there and digitized those cassette tapes.
Yes, and I haven't listened to all the tapes yet. Um, we're familiar with one of them, um, but not all of them yet. Let's see here, Sean, Mr. Steve. It sounded like the team that got to Texas made some very good progress. I believe all you're working together will find Amber and bring closure to that case. Great job, everyone involved. Thank you, Sean. That means a lot to us, and I believe, without a doubt, we're going to find answers. Is it going to be the answers that we want? Um, who knows right now? There's a lot to do. Um, Ruckus says, "Are you using water to help process the soil?" No, I had thought about that, but like I said, we have soil samples, but there are other processes that we may have to send off, and we collected a lot of samples, but there's still a depression in that ground under that house that is semi-protected by the foundation, by the residents, by the enclosure, um, and by chance, if some of our um, artifacts that we've collected do turn out to be human, then of course it's going to flip the case upside down, and then we will. I'll have to turn and everything back over to law enforcement. But we had to make choices because law enforcement at that time said that if they didn't find a human bone, if they found a human bone, they would come back, and they didn't find a human bone, and so they didn't come back. And so a decision had to be made. Made a decision, and we'll have to see where that takes us. But no, I'm not using water. Um, Purdue RN says, "Did anyone get a bad spider bite?" Carolyn's got some bruises on her, I know, but did she? She did get bit by something.
Yeah. I mean, she got bit by a few things, I think, but it was honestly hard to tell. They were covered up by all the bruises by the end of the week.
Poor girl. Oh, here's a cat says, "I was working as a nurse in Dallas when Amber went missing. Very thankful for Steve and Chris and all their work in the case. And thank you for that. And there's, like I said, the team is a lot larger now, and I thank them all." Oh, look at here. Look who showed up. Hi. Is that all she can say? Hi. This is Carolyn, everyone. She is the person that has the technology that came to Texas and helped us, and 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 hopefully we'll have even more information before long. Let's see here. Like I said, oh, she says I know her. Gosh. Now sisters that they are, they go on to each other all the time. Let's see. Yeah. Um, Donald Walters, Steve, do you have to pay for DNA testing? Absolutely. There's nothing. Um, I but the foundation and the contributions to the channel and what monies we make off of ads and everything, uh, we pay it forward to work these cases. Not only this one, but other cases. And but this is just one that we um, is by far the most expensive case that I've had spent. Of course, I've taken travels and spent time on the road prior to now. But this one was probably the most expensive and will become one of the most expensive cases because I'm sure that the lab work and the DNA testing will not. I don't know what the expense will be on that. I have no idea. Do you, Christina?
I mean, I have a vague idea. I know what the commercial cost would be, for the layperson to get a sample tested. But I mean,
Please share that. I don't have an idea. What is that? I mean, is
I
it
mean,
hundreds or thousands? I mean,
hundreds, yeah.
okay,
But
okay,
when I mean, I presume you'll also be paying for things like confidentiality and,
yeah.
um,
Um, Now, is that for bone or is that just for a familial DNA
yeah,
test?
that's just your standard commercially available genetic
Saliva.
genealogy. Yep,
Oh,
saliva.
okay.
Usually
Yeah.
what they have you do is spit in a tube. There are some companies that'll have you do a cheek swab, but yeah,
Okay.
it's all
Okay.
saliva based.
Well, that's probably a lot cheaper than what it used to be, but I don't know what they
Yeah.
will do with bone and other artifacts.
Yeah, because they'll need to get in and make sure they get a decent sample in order to get that DNA profile for you. So you'll also be paying for that expertise.
I turn on the blue light because in my chat they start yelling blue light. So whoever contributed, whoever assisted, thank you. I appreciate your support. Yeah, let's see here. We're getting through here now. I'm trying to get caught up. Oh me, this is quite the experience.
I mean, I'm enjoying watching you go through your chat.
And this is how appreciative I am of her, because if she had charged her rates, it would cost over 10,000. And so she did do it at no cost on that. Um, Now the travel expenses and everything the foundation will cover her food, travel, things of those nature, um, and articles and equipment that we used and broke. Of course, the foundation will pay and reimburse her for that. And but um, and that's what I for assembling a team of this caliber and this intelligence and of level of intelligence and hard workers that worked as much as they did. Um, uh, there's not enough money. I mean, 10,000, you couldn't assemble a team for $50,000 that were more qualified or dedicated to this case than what this small team did for me and did for Amber. So I'm absolutely am in awe of them. Let's see here. Yeah, everyone likes me when I'm doing the 1,000-yard stare trying to figure out this stuff.
It looks like you're looking at your name placard down in the corner.
I, it's not far from that. Hello, Copper Horse. Good to see you. Her poor measuring tape. And this is where they value. I almost get run over by Chris, and they're worried about measuring tape. Uh, there were some statements made under the house during one of the pictures that was being reviewed that is not friendly for family show. So I won't be able to say uh, what happened during interaction between Chris and um, and your sister at a certain point. But it was funny.
Oh my gosh. I think I
I
know.
know. Oh, I left the blue light on, guys, and no one told me. Um, but someone, Donna Walters, $3. Thank you for that. Appreciate your support. Uh, and Chris is working on the part 2, and I think it's going to be out um, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, he was hoping for tomorrow.
And then I don't know when your when Carolyn's going to have her first video, or if she's going to do one on this. Um,
Yeah, we still need to talk about that. So, um, luckily we have a lot of options for content. That's not the problem. It's just putting it out there.
Here's a great question from Jennifer Rochelle. What's your gut say, Steve? Is Amber on that property? Um, would you like to answer that first, or you want me to answer it first?
Oh no, you answer that first.
She was on the, in my opinion, she was on the property at some point, and may very well still be on that property. And hopefully we'll have some answers about that in the coming days. If not, then of course there's other avenues that we can go back and pursue, because there's certain mysteries um, that and things that had occurred and on different parts of the property that make no sense. Uh, but the strongest area for me, of course, is the crawl space. Anything to add to that, Christina?
I mean, I think I'm in agreement with you. But I'm also very interested in that area in the yard as um, a possibility. So
And
I
Molly
think
says, did the FBI ever get back to Larry or anyone about the remains given to them by the homeowners years ago? Larry never knew about that, and I didn't until I spoke to the homeowners a few months ago, and which led us to the area specifically that Christina is talking about, because there were certain things found there and turned over to law enforcement from that spot that she's speaking of, and that was at that point was why we were processing it first. And then, of course, when we get to the crawl space and the initial search of the crawl space, there wasn't a lot of excitement for the fact that everyone was prepping for the ERI under there. And at that time is when Christina and Tanya and I were going to not go to the work site and just do all the work at the hotel of the copying. And of course, that was interrupted right after lunchtime, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah, I think so.
I think
Well,
actually while we were finishing up.
there was a I remember there was a an kind of an eerie moment where um, you had just seen some notes about things that had been listed as missing from the house after Ember was reported as being kidnapped, and then the photo you got, uh, one of the photos that was sent to you from the team at the house,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
looked an awful lot like.
yeah. Oh yeah. There was no doubt what it was. It was a bone. And so,
Oh, I was talking about the
oh,
fabric.
the fabric. Oh yes, and the fabric.
Yeah.
Forgot about that also. But Cynthia gave $5. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank goodness I'm at my mods. I have wonderful mods, and which y'all are going to learn about having great mods. And they send me messages to help me through my flight on what I'm doing here.
That's got to feel like a full-time job.
They do have a full time job trying to keep me moving forward. Uh, I my spider fear is there's no way I could have went under that house. Um, uh, I I just absolutely hate spiders. Snakes don't bother me at all. I'll grab it, doesn't matter. And I've been bit many times by non venomous snakes, never by venomous. Become close a few times by venomous, but just non venomous. Um, but and but even been bit by a shark. But I've never been. I don't want to get bit by a spider.
Wait, what's the shark story?
Um, I probably hold. I've been bit by just about every animal. I've been horses, donkeys, mules, people, sharks, um, um, and I think I may have had a spider bite, or it was um, maybe a scorpion. I couldn't tell because it was some type of blood poisoning there for a few weeks, but and but I got over that. So I've been bit by just about everything you can imagine in my career. But the
I'm
shark story involved a trip to Florida or to the coast of Florida and Alabama.
well, I was gonna guess it wasn't the middle of the plains in Texas, but
No, it wasn't. Although I could have gone to the Gulf down there.
hmm.
Oh, Lane Seawright, Steve and team, is there anything you felt like you missed or didn't have time to get to? Now that you've had some time to think, what's the most promising next step? Um, your thoughts on that first.
Uh, I mean, that last day talking to the homeowner, and he uh, he was like, "So I can uh, I can take my digger to the backyard now, right?" Like,
Oh, yeah.
as so basic as far as anything we missed or didn't have time to get to. I mean, if I had the time, that entire yard would just be the house would be the floor would be torn up, the crawl space would be dug up, all 5 acres would be dug up. I mean, Steve would probably be crying somewhere, but
Oh, yeah, because everyone was so fearful, and and I was trying to keep everything as organized and um, uncontaminated as possible, and and everyone was trying extremely hard. Of course, we missed things, and we didn't have time. We could. It's easily a 1 month or 2 month ordeal on that one property because there's still places under the crawl space that needs to be looked at. Do we have the most critical areas mapped out? I believe we have at least the top two. We have that backyard, and we have this crawl space. And so the finishing up the processing of the materials that we collected will take several more days. And then getting things to the lab for it to be analyzed, and whatever that timeline is going to be, will be a minimum of days, if not weeks. And then whatever those results are, and then getting with Larry and getting, if it's positive, getting with Dallas police and moving forward. Um, and if all that turns and we don't have anything, then of course there's other investigative steps that um, I can't go into right now, but there is another avenue that we will pursue regardless of what we find out from what we did this last week.
when
And
you're
yeah,
looking at labs to get that process, by the way, make sure you get, I mean, I'm sure you already know this, but make sure you get quotes, and I can help you look those over to make sure they're worth their investment.
oh yes, and yeah, I'll have to see if I can find some prior clients. Let's see. And this is a great statement. and it's so true by Sean. Mr. C, building good relationships with people we work with on cases is so vital to finding answers. They also become friends for life. And and I hope that is true for our team and even the family that the property owner.
Hmm.
And one of the final statements that Larry said it was that we were now part of his family forever, and part of his memories forever, which is extremely humbling. Let's see. Everyone knows this. Face it, Mr. Steve, you do better with Mrs. Steve. Y'all are a great team. Absolutely. Um, y'all would not know what a mess I would be without Mrs. Steve.
I think we're getting a preview, but
Oh,
hard to
me.
say.
Oh, me. Uh, uh, Anna, last week when we were just, or not last week, but when I was talking to Carolyn about and she was talking about the electrical current and what it would have on animals such as moles and gophers. Anna made a statement that she wanted that equipment in her yard because she has a gopher issue that they absolutely destroy everything she has. And so she's looking for, maybe you need to get Carolyn to come out and kill your gophers for you.
At the very least, convince them to relocate.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure it would work.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Kathy says, I continue to pray about this case because from the first interview Steve did with Larry, I was hooked. I am humbled by Larry's dedication to Amber and answers, to all helping him. That is well said, and I absolutely 100% agree. Dave said, if you hear someone screaming in his house, someone just found a spider. Mrs. Steve is upstairs trying to get everything back in order. I've only been home, what is this, about 4 days, and she's still trying to figure out my mess that I created in Texas. Does that tell you anything? Although I have to admit, I'm more organized than some people, Christina.
Hey, that was so well organized in the back of that SUV. I mean, we had a system, we knew where everything was. Uh, just because it looked like a Jenga board didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it meant a lot. I looked at it and thought, oh goodness. They were asking what's the image behind and to the right of Christina. It looks like there's some type of alien monster that's trying to grab you with, or trying to stomp you with horse hooves.
This,
Yes.
this is a light. This is
Okay.
a painting.
All right. All right.
We got
Well,
a
okay.
window.
The lights are the what I would imagine as horse hooves about to stomp you.
Yeah.
And asks, how much additional topsoil do you think would have accumulated in 40 years, both outside and in the crawl space? Um, there's no water flow in there, and everything would have settled. And that's what brought their attention to that spot was the settlement, and there was a strange mass that was in the middle of that depression, and we have that mass, and I've got to deconstruct it, which I'm pretty sure that's going to be fun in the next coming few days. Um, but and see what's in it because in that area is where Carolyn found that one what appears to be a single blonde hair that was 2 or 3 inches long, which law enforcement has that we turned over to them that night.
Yeah, that mass under the crawl space, I think the best, like the way I've been describing it to people, I don't know if this is helpful, but it was like it's like a rectangular Mott and Bailey is what it looked like to me, like a ring ditch around a mound.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, Carolyn said it's not something that would be naturally occurring.
No.
And when you have a geophysicist saying that, then I
I
I
mean,
leave it up to the experts. I never question an expert.
it just looked out of place. Just glancing at it, you didn't need a science degree to tell that. Carolyn did a lot more with it, though.
Oh yeah.
A lot more analysis, but just from the get go, it looked odd.
Um, from underneath, there was several things that were not naturally occurring. Of course, there was lime found under there, or from both Larry, who is in this construction business, and then um, from the description and what Carolyn knows about lime and things, that that was under the crawl space, and also there was a lot of charcoal, and that doesn't naturally occur in an open air crawl space. And so that has to be explained for some strange reason that you have a depression and then you have those which all are indicators of something unnaturally occurring. The duck pond area, yes. At the duck pond area, I don't know so much. There is a possibility because from Carolyn's findings, there's certain things that are indicative of some type of disruption, from my understanding.
Hmm.
Plus, in that area is where there was a child's fitted sheet found and some bones that were turned over to law enforcement in the 90s. Uh, and what was that disruption and for what purpose? I don't know. And that will be a future part of our investigations. I don't know what that fabric is right now. I'm. It's a strange piece of fabric. It's very fragile right now. I know that.
Have you handled it? I mean, not with your
No,
bare hands, but
no, no.
no.
I've only opened the package, peeked into it, and sealed it back.
Okay.
No, my heavy hands are not meant to touch anything that's fragile. Um, Miss Steve, y'all didn't do any actual digging, did you? If not, are material artifacts you found all just on? Um, Law enforcement took some bones from the surface. They never went into the areas, and of course, uh, there's a Carolyn has an opinion of why they didn't proceed further because they couldn't get in there past the electrical, and some of them are like me that they're not small enough to get into the areas. We only had two individuals that could get into the areas they got into, and that's Larry and Carolyn, um, and they were able to go in further than anybody that I know of. And so they never made it to that depression. And we took soil samples, and we took a lot of soil samples, and we took soil samples from a lot of different areas, and did also collect as much soil as we could from that depression to test. And hopefully, we'll find some good answers from that. Not only does she have gophers, she lives on a river that has gnats that fly through the window screens. I love to see spider webs loaded with a pest.
She's really selling that property.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got gophers the size of dogs and, and gnats the size of birds. Let's see here. We're getting close up here. Oh yeah, we're here for an hour now.
Mhm.
So we're about. I'm getting close to the end here. We don't know the answer to that now. The bones that have been analyzed by Dallas are uh, all been determined to be either non-human or unidentifiable, but not human. Because there was one bone that they didn't identify, but they said it was non-human. So I don't know what that means, but they didn't find anything and didn't come back. So hopefully we'll have something in the future that is.
Mhm.
And another team member says, "I love Larry. He's amazing. Homeowners were just the best." Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Trying to get down through here as quick as I can. And yes, I have another interview planned for Saturday night with Larry. I talked to him. If I can get him to his neighbor's house to get him on the computer, he will be here. And if not, I will probably, because I will have another interview with Larry. I just may have to travel up there to Indiana. But he will be back on the show, even if I have to drive up there.
If you do that, let me know when you do, because we're not that far. We'll have a team reunion. Maybe get Chris to drive out to finish the job.
Oh, I'll finish the job of running me down. Is that?
Yeah.
It was a mass, MASS. It was a, a
Th-
mass of, I don't know, um, of soil, strings, insulation. I don't know what's all in there. I will be able to tell you next week what it looks like when I get into it and to it and see what it is.
if it had been a strange mask, I don't know if we would have been able to talk anyone into going back under there, except for Larry.
Oh yes. Some of those pictures are haunting that Carolyn took.
I don't know how she did it.
The oldest Google I have found, I think, was from and they have some older images, but they're not really satellite images. The oldest I could find, I think, was in the 90s, um, as far as Google Earth. But I'm just going to have to see if there's any local, because sometimes you have local airports where they'll fly over, and I have to see if there's any of those, um, and do the research on that. But as far as Google Earth, I don't have anything for that time period.
Carolyn was just looking into that this afternoon, I think, so I don't know if she had any more luck with that, but it would be worth asking her.
Yeah, hopefully she does, because like I
Yeah.
said, the ones I looked at during the timeline, it just didn't turn out.
I know we scanned a bunch of images that the first private investigator had taken of the neighborhood and,
Yeah,
everything from the ground level, but
um, and he had some, but they were very grainy. Of some of those
well,
images.
they're from the early 80s, so
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know what he got those from. Um, and because he was asking me if I had any better, he would appreciate if I put them back in the file if I could find some.
oh no. Well, the negatives were with a bunch of them, so he must have taken them.
Yeah. Oh man, people in chat. Oh, absolutely wonderful. And and this is a good point. Sometimes the state natural resources department have OSITE surveys, aerial photos, and those are what the images I was talking about. And you'll find them in some of the old tax offices, where they used to do flyovers and things. And so I will get Tanya to look into that, see if she can find those specific years. All right.
Also, old there are some Facebook groups where people, get together, share memories of the old neighborhood, share photos from when they were growing up, things like that. And that might be a good resource for the Pleasant Grove area of Dallas if there is such a community.
Well, we've been here for over an hour. I appreciate you coming. It's been an honor, and I absolutely um, thank you for what you did last week in the search and all the parts that you played in it, because we couldn't have done it without you. Um, and each individual played a major part, and you always have my utmost respect. I'm in awe of you and everything that you did and what you sacrificed. And so thank you. Any final thoughts about the trip?
I don't think I have anything to add, Lester. I'm just appreciative that you let me tag along.
Yeah, this is part of the joke, because, like I said, for the first 5 minutes when we was making documents, or first hour, I probably called Christina 5 or 6 different names, and
Yeah.
she answered every time, and so that was more confusing to me because I didn't know her name, and uh, so finally she just started calling me different names, and so that continues to this day. So when you hear names thrown around with this team, they mean nothing. No one, uh, uh, like I said, it's just been an ongoing joke ever since we was trying to copy those documents. But I absolutely appreciate you and your sister, and look forward to working with y'all in the future. And but thank you for being here,
Yep.
and thank everyone that watched tonight. And if you like the video, share it. And give it a thumbs up, and we appreciate it. We appreciate all the support, donations, because we couldn't do it without our members and all the people that support the foundation, which you can go over to truecrimeweb.com. And if you want to do the foundation part of it, and it has it's is a nonprofit, so you have the tax credit for that. But we just want to thank everybody for being here. Y'all mean absolutely a lot to me, and I'll see y'all soon. I'm gonna put you backstage, Christina, and I'll see you
All
in a
right.
minute.
Oh,
Well, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging with me tonight, and absolutely amazing people that are here and have showed up and helped us channel and to move forward on these cold cases. Um, I never dreamed that this channel would have the ability to go out on the road. And as we move forward, I look forward to working with a lot of other professionals also. And y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye bye.